Right now, on Currents News, a stimulus bill passes the House of Representatives, but Catholic bishops are finding problems with it. Plus, Cuomo apologizes. What's next for the investigation into sexual harassment allegations against New York's governor? Pope safety, the measures in place to protect the Holy Father and his trip to Iraq as COVID-19 ravages the country. And Feed the Hungry, efforts to help the food insecure continue 1 year into the pandemic. Good evening, I'm Christine Persichetti. The massive COVID-19 relief bill is now in the Senate as they work to pass it. But Republicans and progressives are unhappy with the bill. And it includes an idea that's problematic for many Catholics. Karen Kaifa is in Washington to explain the next steps.
Millions of Americans rely on unemployment benefits to pay for food and rent.
I am a real person who had a real job. And now I need help so that I can provide for my children.
That money will start running out in less than 2 weeks if Congress doesn't act fast. Now, the pressure is on the Senate to pass President Joe Biden's $1.9 trillion COVID relief plan.
We go big on unemployment benefits, on opening schools and putting shots in people's arms and money in people's pockets.
But there are bumps in the road. The Senate parliamentarian ruled a proposal in the House measure to raise the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour must be removed in the Senate version. Progressives pushing back.
It is essential that we deliver on this promise.
Senate Democrats pressing forward without the minimum wage increase and without Republican support.
Frankly, we're moving ahead with a bill that probably will get no Republican votes in the Senate.
Republicans have not been involved. I listened to Press Secretary Jen Psaki speaking about how we've been listened to. I started laughing. That is such a joke. They made a conscious decision not to include us.
Republicans say the bill is too big and not focused on COVID relief.
Do we need to pay for bridges? Does that have anything to do with COVID? Do we need to pay for tunnels for Silicon Valley?
Democrats must be fully united if they want to pass this package by the end of the week and get a bill on the president's desk before pandemic benefits expire. In Washington, Karen Kaifa, Currents News.
The U.S. bishops are speaking out against the new stimulus bill because it lacks HYDE Amendment protections, meaning it does not protect against abortion funding. Named after Republican Congressman Henry Hyde, the law enacted in 1976 was in response to the Supreme Court's Roe v. Wade decision. It bars taxpayer money from being used for most abortions and is re-upped every year as a rider to federal spending bills. President Biden has said in the past that he will work to overturn the law. A repeal of the amendment would require both chambers of Congress. The House and the Senate are now in Democrats' control. If you'd like to ask Congress to pass COVID-19 relief that protects the unborn, the U.S. bishops have made it easy. Just go to usccb.org, click on the Issues and Action tab, and click Take Action. Today marks 1 year since the first case of COVID-19 was reported in New York. Since then, many have been struggling every day to get enough food for their families. Jessica Easthope was in Crown Heights with one group making it their Lenten mission to feed the hungry.
1 year into the pandemic, food insecurity is still at an all-time high in Brooklyn. According to North Brooklyn Angels, 20% of the borough is food insecure, a need that won't disappear with the COVID vaccine.
A lot of these people have a personal connection with us. If they weren't necessarily comfortable going out to these other outlets, they would feel more comfortable receiving items from people that they genuinely know.
Colleen Chasteau is a member of St. Matthew Group of Hope. With money raised on GoFundMe, the volunteers partnered with Key Food to purchase and distribute a week's worth of groceries and essentials to more than 70 people. Colleen says it's part of their Lenten promise.
To give for the greater good, this is how we're tying Lent into this. We're all Catholics here, and it's really important to our faith to be able to give to those who are less fortunate.
Yeah, that's what I would think. But
instead of giving something up, Father Frank Black, the pastor of St. Matthew's, says the volunteers are giving more of themselves.
Our Lenten sacrifices are to empty ourselves so that we can fill ourselves with God's love. But there's also another way to do it, by putting the love into practice.
St. Matthew Group of Hope's operation is a community effort. They gathered names of parishioners who they know need help and were given more names by officers from the 77th Precinct.
It's all about what we're supposed to be doing, working together as God's people to make the world a better place.
Grateful to have help during a difficult time, Rachel Green asked her neighbor Millie to come with her to get her groceries. She had plans to put the pillars of Lent into practice in her own way.
She's a very close friend of mine. I plan to share the food with her.
Volunteers say you can see just how thankful recipients are. And even after a year of struggle, they're still looking out for one another.
Not only come out for the food, but also support other people that they know that might be in need of help. So they do recommend other names of folks that are struggling.
Group of Hope was able to provide the groceries with just $2,500. They plan to hold another giveaway as soon as they can raise enough. In Crown Heights, Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
If you'd like to donate to the Group of Hope, you can do so through their GoFundMe. You can find it at gofundme.com/Group of Hope Community Outreach. Johnson & Johnson is shipping out its newly approved COVID-19 vaccine across the country. The FDA approved the single-shot vaccine for emergency use authorization over the weekend. The company says nearly 4 million doses could arrive as early as Tuesday morning. Johnson & Johnson pledged to ship out an additional 16 million doses by the end of March and 100 million by the end of June. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo faces more allegations of sexual harassment, and there are growing calls for an independent investigation, even the White House throwing its support behind a probe.
That story was incredibly uncomfortable to read as a woman, and we certainly believe that every woman coming forward, Charlotte, Lindsay, should be treated with respect and dignity and be able to tell their story.
Pressure mounting against Governor Andrew Cuomo after a second former aide has come forward accusing him of sexual harassment. Cuomo addressing the allegations, writing in a statement, "I now understand that my interactions may have been insensitive or too personal, and that some of my comments, given my position, made others feel in ways I never intended. I acknowledge some of the things I have said have been misinterpreted as an unwanted flirtation. To the extent anyone felt that way, I am truly sorry about that." The statement in response to allegations former aide Charlotte Bennett made to the New York Times. She says back in June, Cuomo asked her if she was monogamous in her relationships and if she had sex with older men. Bennett tells the Times she understood that the governor wanted to sleep with her and she felt uncomfortable and scared. Cuomo denied Bennett's allegations in a statement Saturday. It came on the heels of former aide Lindsay Boylan's accusation last week. In a post online, Boylan says Cuomo asked her to play strip poker on his taxpayer-funded jet. And in another instance, after a one-on-one briefing with the governor in 2018, she says he kissed her. Cuomo denied Boylan's accusations in December when they first surfaced. The governor initially tried to appoint an independent reviewer to look into the allegations, but New York's Attorney General Letitia James rejected that, insisting on an independent investigation by an outside law firm with subpoena powers. Several high-profile New York Democrats also rejecting Cuomo's effort, arguing that he should have no role in shaping the probe.
If these investigations bear out, it really starts to, I think, call into question the leadership that we currently have.
Some lawmakers were already calling on Governor Cuomo to step down after the nursing home data scandal. Now more are reiterating that call. Meanwhile, the governor's office released a statement saying it will voluntarily cooperate fully with the investigation. Days before Pope Francis's journey to Iraq, the papal ambassador to the country tested positive for COVID-19. Slovenian Archbishop Mitja Leskovar was supposed to accompany the pontiff during his visit to the land of the two rivers, but is now in isolation. The trip is expected to boost the spirits of Iraq's Christians and to build bridges with the Muslim world. However, the country is going through its second wave of the coronavirus, forcing local authorities to close all houses of prayer. Taking precautions ahead of the visit, Pope Francis and everyone traveling with him have been vaccinated. According to Iraqi officials, trip organizers promise to enforce mask mandates, social distancing, and crowd limits, as well as the possibility of increasing testing sites. His Holiness is also encouraging Iraqis to watch his visit on television in order to avoid infection. Church leaders in Iraq are moving full speed ahead with their preparations for the Pope's trip. Auxiliary Bishop Yaldo, who is in charge of planning the Pope's 4-day journey toward the spots the Holy Father will stop, and made final preparations for the pontiff. Claudia Torres gives us a sneak peek at what we can expect the Holy Father will see.
Pope Francis' apostolic trip to Iraq is right around the corner. He is scheduled to fly out of Rome on Friday, March 5th, and land at Baghdad International Airport in the late morning. He will meet with the Prime Minister and the President and deliver an address to civil authorities and members of the diplomatic corps. That same day, Pope Francis will meet with men and women religious at the Syro-Catholic Cathedral of Our Lady of Salvation, which was bombed in 2010. The attack claimed the lives of 58 Christians, among them 2 priests. On Saturday, March 6th, the Pope will fly to Najaf, where he will meet with the Grand Ayatollah al-Sayyid Ali al-Husseini al-Sistani, one of the most important spiritual leaders for Shia Muslims. From there, he will attend an interreligious meeting at the Plain of Ur, native land of Abraham, the biblical figure shared by the 3 great monotheistic religions. On Sunday, March 7th, Pope Francis will visit the Iraqi Kurdistan region, where ISIS carried out numerous attacks on Christians. Many of those driven out of the Nineveh plains took refuge in Erbil. The Pope will also go to Mosul, where he will lead a prayer of suffrage for the victims of the war at Hosh al-Biea, Church Square. Then he will go to Karakosh, home to one of the region's largest Christian communities. After a farewell ceremony at Baghdad International Airport on Monday, March 8th, Pope Francis will take the 5-hour flight back to Rome.
Again, that was Claudia Torres reporting. Pope Francis has said that even if Iraqis can only see the trip on television because of COVID, the important thing for them to see is that the Pope is in their country. Currents News and The Tablet will have all-inclusive coverage of the Pope's trip to Iraq, his first journey since the pandemic took hold. That begins this Friday, March 5th through the 8th. We have much more on the Pope's trip coming up. We'll speak with an expert on the plight of Christians in the region. Plus,
before his birth, while he was in utero, they noticed that there was something wrong.
A Catholic basketball player is not letting his limitations define him. And a Mass celebrating Black history to finish out the month.
There are now some big changes to the Tablet website. You can get personalized access to the Catholic news you value. Sign up for free at thetablet.org.
Continuing our coverage of Pope Francis's upcoming trip to Iraq, this historic visit holds a lot of meaning to Christians in the region who have faced persecution. Joining us now is Stephen Cook, who's a senior fellow with the Council on Foreign Relations and an expert on the region. And Stephen, in the past 10 years, parts of northern Africa and the Middle East have been greatly destabilized, and minority populations like Christians in Iraq have suffered. Can you give us an overview of why that is?
Well, with the deterioration of central authority in many of these states, what protection the Christian communities had, and it was not great protection, but whatever they had, dissipated. Starting with Iraq, where the Pope will be going, along the Nineveh Plain, which is where the large numbers of Iraqi Christians live, the Islamic State took over in 2013 and essentially forced people to convert, or they were going to kill them. This led to the continuation of an exodus of Christians out of Iraq.
Yeah, so after ISIS drove Christians out of Iraq, the Pope spoke out.
Assicuro a queste famiglie e a queste persone la mia vicinanza e la mia costante preghiera.
Pope Francis also told persecuted Christians the church is proud of them. What kind of message will he bring now?
I think he'll bring a message of peace, of tolerance, of the idea that Christianity and Islam are Abrahamic faiths. This is a message that he carried to the United Arab Emirates during his landmark visit there as well. That has been welcomed, I think, throughout the Middle East during these very dark days of the last decade, when extremists tended to frame the terms of the debate in the region and used violence against not only Christians, but also different sects of Islam.
Yeah, now we don't have the exact numbers, but the decline in Christianity in Iraq is significant. In 2014, there were between 1.2 and 1.5 million Christians. Now, it's estimated there are about 400,000. Will those numbers continue to go up, and will it ever get back to what it once was?
I'm afraid if other parts of the region are any precedent, it won't go back to those numbers. The Iraqi Christian population has been diminishing. It's been diminishing since the American-led invasion in 2003. Of course, people were trying to leave Iraq before then, but it was much harder. But as you can see, the precipitous decline in the number of Christians who have left Iraq in the face of the threat from extremists, in the face of just basic instability of the government, a country that seems perennially to be on the verge of collapse, means that people who have the means are going to try to leave. And you see that in the million or more Christians who have fled the country.
Back in 2014, Pope Francis addressed ISIS terrorists directly. Let's take a listen.
Non si porta l'odio in nome di Dio. Non si fa la guerra in nome di Dio.
How have other religious communities been affected throughout the region?
Well, certainly the primary targets of the Islamic State were other Muslims. And there is, under the surface in ways that we don't see, lots of Muslims who are trying to take back their religion from extremists. And the Pope has helped in this way. During his visit to the region previously, he met with the Sheikh of Al-Azhar. Al-Azhar is the most important center of Sunni learning in the region, located in Cairo, Egypt's capital. So they have sought to voice a message of tolerance and unity against these darkest interpretations of Islam. I think that resonates with many people. And I think many people in the region have been horrified by the violence of the Islamic State. It's something, however, that governments have not yet been able to gain control over.
Stephen Cook from the Council on Foreign Relations, thanks for being with us.
My pleasure.
The Diocese of Brooklyn marked the end of Black History Month with a special Mass on Sunday. The beloved annual tradition continued this year, taking place on the second Sunday of Lent. Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio was the celebrant. He praised the incredible diversity in the Diocese of Brooklyn.
For the people of color, they're happy to do this once a year to show that they're acknowledged as part of the diocese, and many other groups have their own masses each year.
And we gather as a community today to pray that we will continue to live in a world filled with justice, peace, and equality, that we will continue to preach and teach equality just as our ancestors did.
Father Franklin Iziora delivered the homily. Born and raised in Nigeria, he's the parochial vicar for St. Martin de Porres Parish. He spoke about the importance of Black History Month and about the role Black Catholics play in the church. If you'd like to listen to Father Franklin's full homily, just go to our website, currentsny.tv. One Catholic school student isn't letting anything get in the way of his passion for basketball. Currents News' Emily Druvy traveled up to Saratoga Springs to tell his inspiring story.
Every day after school, Danny Mantilla is here. Passing, shooting, and perfecting his craft, a natural talent that runs in the family.
I started playing basketball when I was probably 6 years old at my dad's games.
Basketball. For the last 11 years, it's been Danny's passion.
I play after school and then go home and watch basketball on TV, so pretty big part of my life.
To Danny, it's not just a game. This court is where he faces off. Not only against his opponents, but life.
That's been Danny all along. He just figures it out.
Life has thrown a lot his way, and he's taken it in stride.
While he was in utero, they noticed that there was something wrong.
Danny's mom says doctors discovered he had proximal focal femoral dysplasia, a rare disease that affects the growth of the thigh bone. Doctors suggested removing his leg.
And my husband and I were like, what? I mean, this is a perfectly normal leg. It just needed some fixing.
They chose to fight. Danny's first face-off. 4 surgeries and more to come. Straightening the bone, making an ACL, removing hardware. 2 lengthening surgeries, leading to 3 painful months of slowly stretching the bone.
The whole having to rehab aspect of it, because I'll be playing and then I'll have to take 8 months off to rehab my leg, and that can be difficult sometimes.
8 months to recover, 9 more to regain his strength.
He's actually a pretty amazing kid. I mean, just going through the surgeries that he's gone through, he's never complained. And this kid, you know, he wakes up in pain almost every day, and the pain to him is just normal.
His leg has been stretched 5 inches. He has 2 inches left. It would be easy for the 17-year-old to lace up his shoes, to stop playing, to give up. But he doesn't.
God picked the right child.
Instead, the point guard works harder and uses a lifted shoe, refusing to lose a step. His coach, Bill Haskell, knows what it's like to work hard for the love of the game.
When you get it here.
Born without a right hand, he played high school and college basketball.
I just followed the game and studied it and worked so hard at it.
After retiring from a long college coaching career, Bill decided to come here.
When I retired, I had in mind that I would love to be a high school basketball coach where I can maybe inspire some kids.
Little did he know, he would be inspired too.
Very encouraging that somebody would love the game that much to work that hard, you know, to be able to play.
Danny is waiting until after graduation for his next leg lengthening surgery. The junior soaking up every second of moments like this, where it's just him and basketball, the game he loves. In Saratoga Springs, Emily Druby, Currents News.
Coming up, talk about Hot Wheels. A chariot is found more than 1,000 years after it was buried by lava from Mount Vesuvius. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number, 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. Archaeologists have unveiled a timeless treasure near the ancient Roman city, Pompeii. A ceremonial chariot made of bronze and tin was found in excellent condition in a villa north of the city. Researchers say it's another clue to what life was like in Pompeii before the city was buried in volcanic ash 2,000 years ago. The Archaeological Park of Pompeii has since moved the artifact to a laboratory and plans to begin a lengthy restoration and reconstruction process. Amazing. And that is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.